Hello everybody, I'm Michael Watson and I'd like to welcome you back. This is the second mini lesson in our Core Transformation series. For those of you who are just joining us, a little recap might be in order, just to say that Core Transformation is an experiential change process. It can be used for any number of issues or concerns or problems. It gently uncovers what's behind these issues at the very core of our being without having to rehash our personal history. It helps us to connect more substantially to our deeper self to resolve those issues. Or it can be applied to experiences of satisfaction and of richness in our lives in order to discover and enjoy the rich core behind those experiences. By bringing this richness to an even greater expression, it will touch all aspects of our life. And I'm not kidding. The potential of this process is enormous and life-changing. And it all comes from within yourself. It's not about somebody trying to put ideas into your head, but instead reaching your own wellspring within and bringing it even more to the surface and to life in the world. So let's get started. Today's lesson is called Getting to the Bottom of Things. By nature, we are comparing creatures. That is, we make evaluations of things based on how they stack up in relationship to other things. You know, we have good relationships and we have bad relationships, and some of them are better and some of them are worse. And we have big problems and we have little problems, and we know that some are more important or more significant than others. And that's because we organize our values in much the same way. Some things are more highly valued than others. Or another way to say it is that some values are more important and take precedence over others. Does that make sense? For example, there may be certain behaviors, physical aggression for example, that a non-violent person would never engage in. But their behavior might change in a moment if their children were threatened or in some kind of danger, because protecting my children, at least for that person, may actually hold a higher value than non-violence. Of course, the leveraging of values is how change often takes place. A person might enjoy habits like smoking or drinking or whatever it is because they value the relaxation or the pleasure that it provides. And people often don't come around to making a change until some higher value comes into play. For example, their health is threatened by their behavior, or they're strongly motivated to become a better role model, or something else that's even more important than the relaxation or the pleasure that they were enjoying from their habit. Now, in the usual cultural model, we talk about some values as being higher than other values. But in Core Transformation, we like to think of some values as being deeper or more essential or more core than others. And that's why finding the deepest value is what I was talking about when I titled this lesson, Getting to the Bottom of Things. But some people don't really know what their deepest values are. It turns out to be a forest for the trees kind of thing, or maybe it's a trees for the forest sort of thing. We have intellectual values, we have philosophical understandings, and some things that we've been culturally taught were important or desirable, and others that we came to through our own thinking. But the value of our hearts, the built-in ones, what are they? What are the values by which we operate our lives? What are the things that are naturally, intrinsically important to us? How can we know those? Well, they leave a lot of clues. Our deepest disappointments, our failures, our painful experiences, all of your tragedies or challenges show you something about what matters most to you. And all of your victories and your successes and most fulfilling experiences also help to reveal your values. They point out just what you're up to, what stars you're following as you go about your journey. So, because both our tragedies and our triumphs, our pains and our pleasures, can lead us to a deeper awareness of what's important to us, we can use either in the Core Transformation process to get to the bottom of things, to uncover the core, to reach the wellspring within, and to find out what we're really after. So here's the way that it works. We begin with an experience, and because of the nature of the work, it's usually some perceived limitation that a client might bring to us, or it could even be something within ourselves that's challenging or unsettling enough to get our attention. And then we step into it. That is, we just let ourselves feel it, whatever it is. Eugene Gendlin, the author of Focusing, has told us that a prerequisite of success in therapy or in change work is the ability to access a felt sense of the situation. And that really seems to be the case here. The next step is to point out that whatever the unwanted experience may be, if you've started with something unwanted, it isn't something that we decided to experience. It seems to be something that just happens through us. And since we didn't generate it consciously or deliberately, it's as though some part of us has generated this experience. And we're not talking about multiple personalities or anything like that. This notion of parts, as we use it here, is simply a helpful metaphor to describe this experience. So, focusing on the feelings, we ask the part that generates them, when you're doing that, what is it that you really want? In an example from a previous training, a woman had said that she had road rage. And although the label seemed an exaggeration for the level of frustration and the anger that she exhibited toward other drivers on the road, the felt sense was a good place to start. So I asked her to connect with that feeling and to just ask that part that generated it, what do you want? And she took a moment, she turned inside, she felt, she listened, and finally she said, control. Good, good, I replied, and I invited her to step into that. And I asked her, so now ask the part, when you have that control, just the way that you want it, what then does that part want through having control that's even more important? And after a moment of processing and thinking, she replied, well, to be safe. And we continued in this way, one deeper outcome after another, because through safety, what she wanted was security. And through security, she wanted relaxation. And through relaxation, what she really wanted was to be able to just let her guard down. And through that, she could get to a sense of freedom. And through that, peace. And peace is a core outcome. It's an end in itself. When she experiences peace, nothing further is wanted. And it also takes care of the things that led us here. And peace is a state. Peace is a state. She doesn't need to do anything but to feel it. It doesn't come from the circumstances. In fact, it comes from within her. As a matter of fact, when she answered the question, what does that part want? She turned inside to find the answer, and she found peace within herself. So now, we're going to invite her to step into that, and to feel that fully. This peace is her core outcome. This is what it's been about. This is what she's been up to all along. Even when she's getting angry and frustrated at other drivers, this is what she's been after. And so many other places in her life as well. This peace is within her. And this peace is the answer to her needs. So we want to call it up. We want to let her savor it for a moment, to let her marinate in it, and let her discover that it is natural to her, that it comes from her. And then we want to apply it somehow. We want to make it useful for her. So we invite her to discover and experience what a difference having that core state makes. First of all, to her life in general, and then to those intermediate outcomes like freedom and relaxation and letting her guard down, and finally to that situation with driving, the one that we began with. So take a look at this video clip, and I'll show you how we do that part of it. So invite this part to just step into peace now, and ask this part. When you already have peace in an ongoing way, how does already having peace, and you don't necessarily need to answer this, although you might, but notice when you already have that, how it makes things different, just in a general sense. When you already have that in an ongoing way. And ask the part then, when you already have peace as a way of being, notice how having peace as a way of being radiates through, transforms that sense of freedom. In fact, notice how already having peace as a way of being in an ongoing way, just that peace, makes it easier for you to let your guard down. And ask the part, how does already having peace as a way of being transform and touch that desire for security and for relaxation? How does having peace in that very special way contribute to your experience of safety?
It feels like it just wraps around all those previous fears and just calms it all.
Yeah, and that's what core states do. So really letting yourself just be in that experience of peace for a moment. Notice how really having that as a way of being in the world makes a difference with regard to your concern for control.
No need for control.
Yeah. And all of those things are so beautiful. And here's the thing that's really special, is I want you to notice that when we began, there was a particular issue. So I'm wondering, when you think about it now, how does already having peace, that rich experience of peace, make a difference in those situations in which you used to experience road rage? So, for example, you thought about an experience, you described one earlier. Take that peace with you and mentally step into that example again and notice what happens differently.
Completely different.
You sense other behaviors emerging?
Everything the opposite.
Everything's the opposite. That's great. Okay, then come on back out here. So, nicely done.
And I can feel, just from that example, that pathway to present that in other circumstances in my life.
Not exactly right, isn't that right? And that's the thing that I think is interesting about this whole process, is it doesn't matter where you step into the matrix, you know, that this is a core state to you, that when you think about it, there's all kinds of other places that it's going to impact.
Yes.
We took a particular issue and used it in order to find this, right? But it has implications all over the map, doesn't it?
For me, yes, it
Yeah.
does. Peace is the ultimate goal.
Great. So thank you, Jerry.
You.
Okay. So look, we start out with the issue itself, right? And what does the part want that's generating that, right? It wants this, and if it can have this, and we let it step into that experience of control, what does it want? It wants this. What does it want with that? It wants this, and so on until we get to the core. Then at the core, we apply it generally first. So just notice how really having this experience of peace, did you see her posture change, her breathing change? I mean, there's a whole shift there. How that affects things generally, then how it impacts each of these things on the way back to the to the source situation. And then finally, what a difference it makes in that particular context that she brought in to begin with. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for joining us. If you're on our list, you'll be getting another lesson in your mailbox just like you did this one. And if not, you can subscribe to the blog by using the link over there on your right. So we'll see you again soon. Until then, live with a happy heart and a playful spirit and a peaceful mind. Bye-bye now.